Welcome to week 5, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Instructional Leadership Week of the course. After this week, we will just have one final module, Module 6, which will run 2 weeks and take us right through until June 17th. Before I get going, I want to just invite you to have a look at Shane Beckett's module. He's going to be using a new piece of technology, to me anyway, called Blab, which you'll need a Twitter account to log into. So he's going to post the details of when you can join him on that, because it's a chance to have a live conversation with him. So keep your eyes peeled, just keep checking Shane Beckett Practicum, and we look forward to seeing you, I guess, through Blab.
And thank you for that interesting format. We'll all look forward to learning it.
Something new. It's amazing all the new things and new ways that I've seen people present this course, so it's been quite interesting for me to have a look at all the different pieces and for us to try some of them out as well. For those of you who haven't yet figured, we are, or noticed perhaps, we're using a hashtag in Twitter called LUPQP2. So if you search that hashtag, you'll see different posts we have. What we've been both trying to do is, as we see things come up on the people we follow in Twitter, and if they're related to the course that we're working on, we'll hashtag LUPQP2 so that you can have a look. And there's all kinds of great little mini video clips, quotes, resources, educators and educational thinkers from around the world on there. So we encourage you to use the hashtag as well, because we follow that hashtag, and it's nice to see things as they come up. For this week, we are really looking forward to hearing how your leadership philosophy is going to be connected to those actions, because I think we all can agree that what we actually think impacts how we act. And so we've had some interesting reading through the course so far about some of the behavioral event pieces, how people are making choices and decisions, reflecting on their case studies, and really interesting to see the different thinking behind, well, maybe motivation behind how people are choosing to handle things. And there's no really wrong answer in most cases. I mean, if you have the student at the heart of it and finding a win-win solution, there's many ways to go about getting there. I would like to actually also talk about the data piece, because we have the unique perspective of having people from First Nations communities, provincial systems, Manitoba, and then we have some international students from schools as well. So it was really interesting to see the different data sets that people have been using, and so very different than just the Ontario context that most of us are working within. So I'm hoping that at some point, I'm sure the leaders are actually looking around, but it's nice that we now as school leaders have that information as well, because we then can talk to our superintendents and say, you know, in Poland or in wherever, they use this kind of data as well, so maybe we want to think about investigating some of that. And it really brought to mind why we collect data. So having a really defined, clear purpose for why you're collecting it, and then choosing the right tool to collect that, whether it's at a school level or at a system level.
Yeah, and so just to kind of further a little bit of that conversation regarding the behavioral event pieces, I've been reading over folks are finally getting all of their EQI reports together, and I think it's been really neat to see you recognize yourself in those emotional quotient inventories. You see, oh yeah, that's one of my strengths. Oh, I can see that, how that works for me. And then areas for growth too are pointed out. And a couple things I wanted to comment on. One, I see people quickly linking those actions and those ideas to their philosophies, and then the way in which they'll respond later. And particularly if I'm looking at the case study pieces and people using the ABCDE chart, you can really see where your strengths in leadership and your strength and your philosophy pieces blend and how you react to a situation. So that's really interesting for me to read, but it's also a great opportunity for you to reflect on how you might shift or change actions, or how you approach those kind of situations. One of the things I did say in one of my posts to some folks is that the great thing about your EQI is it's not fixed. So that emotional quotient IQ, unlike your sort of the belief system that your IQ might be fixed, the emotional IQ is not fixed. And so that's a great opportunity. That's why the OCT has us engage in this kind of activity, is you get an opportunity to look at where are my strengths, what are my areas for growth, and then the book that we've gotten for you, the EQ Edge, gives you the opportunity to really address those through some practical exercises. So you can actually see yourself growing in those areas and measure that and use your own sort of data set. So it's been neat to read through those. I really appreciated that.
Okay, thanks. One of the things that we'd also like to talk about is the piece on budget that we read. Because of the diversity within our system, we got a chance to see how boards in Ontario are funded through ministry funding. But then what does that look like at the individual school levels? And every board has their own way of funding for schools. The board that I currently will be returning to in June, we get a school budget that's based per capita that I have control over a very small portion of it. Mostly it's photocopies, a little tiny bit of money for phone postage, a little bit of money for teacher release time, which maybe will give me, I don't know, 3 teacher release days.
Yeah,
It doesn't give you, not per teacher in total. And then the fundraising piece that we work with our school council is often the budget that we use that ends up funding things like buses and field trips and sport teams and teacher release times. So really, we're fairly limited in what we actually have control over. It's very small. So when we're talking about aligning the priorities of the school, one of the people had commented in the reflection that they were really surprised, and it was a real eye-opener in terms of looking at how systems align their money, because they always just thought, well, why can't I just get that? I need that. And while nobody would dispute we need that, everybody needs something, and there's such a small amount of money. You have to be very purposeful. And I have had an experience where I've gone into a school, not in a provincial system, but in a private system, where whatever the principal's priorities were is what the money got spent on. And to some degree, there's some truth to that in a bigger system as well. But when it comes to resources, if somebody wants to spend all their money buying textbooks, and that's the entire $10,000 budget, how valuable is that to student learning? So really weighing out and evaluating the dollar versus the resource, or where you're going to spend those dollars, and the direct impact and long-term impact on student achievement and well-being, I think are some really key pieces to be thinking about. Because it's great to say, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and then you spend all your money for 3 years on that. I worked with one person where having nice desks and chairs were quite important to that person. So the school budget for years, the school was beautiful, but at the expense of a whole lot of other things happening in the school. So it's about finding, what do we need? What can we do without? How can we maybe bridge some pieces? How can we fund from outside places through additional grants that we could look for? We do a lot of grant writing, it seems.
Yeah, you become very good at finding money in odd places.
And community partnerships and...
and I had mentioned our PQP1 folks because they're doing a larger piece on community partnerships than you folks are, but recognizing that community partnerships, while traditionally we've always used them to provide those extra resources, or even money at times, or in-kind sort of donations, but to think about them as people enriching your curriculum and your culture as well, not only just the resource side of it. So, as we got today, we talked about data, we talk about your leadership philosophies, and all of that ties into things like how you operate your budget, and whether you have a lot to work with or a little bit to work with. What you spend your money on needs to be data driven. It also is going to align though with your philosophies and vision that you've created with your school and your school community. And it's also going to push your parent community's boundaries and what they're looking for. So all of those pieces really have to tie together in something as simple as managing your budget. And it's neat to see the provincial perspective. I like that, and I saw other people commenting that it does give them that system perspective, and we don't always get it coming from first a classroom and then a school setting. And even if you're working at a board setting, you still may not see the whole overview of what the provincial funding looks like, and how it can hamper the way in which we think things should go, and then why we sometimes have to do some very creative things. I know you're moving. I
want to add to that though. Yeah. Kathy Montreux, I had tweeted out this week, had talked about that sometimes, and it was not a new sentiment, but it was a good reminder. Sometimes we have to let go of things in order to create space for innovation and creativity. And it's hard to let go of things. If I can liken it to those home shows where you have to clean your house and get rid of stuff, in order to create a new space that maybe you want to spend some time reading and doing yoga in, for instance. Well, you can't do that in that space if it's filled with boxes of old stuff that maybe aren't that effective or aren't adding value to your life. So I think likewise, it's a good exercise and a good practice to constantly be using data to say, is this action actually working towards what we want our outcome to be for students? And if not, is it the way we're implementing it, or is it just not the right action for this student or this class or this school at this time? Because there's lots of great strategies and great processes, but they're not great if they're not great for you. So really evaluating that and using data to help make those decisions is really key.
And I think, Kat, some of the reading you're going to do this week on designing that professional learning community and where your focus is going to go and what the learning will look like, you start thinking about adult learners, it is challenging that space that they're in. So asking them to step out of a comfort zone or to challenge their thinking based on the data that you're getting. So that's going to lead right into that work you do this week, so with Module 5.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's everything.
Okay, well, have a great week.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check Shane's post and that post of others. And thank you again for your feedback. We read through all of it from Module 4, and then we went back and checked some of the earlier modules because we had some new feedback on there as well. Very helpful. And we're going to be moving some things along as we go.
Yeah.
Okay?
And if you're an EQAO this week, I'm with you.
Good luck. Smile.